I said, because I get you have options. You're handsome, you're successful, you will have options forever. So it really is in your hands, your fate. So you can tell me I'm great all you want, but you're not pursuing me, and I know why. Because I require too much. And that's all right. I'm okay with that.
What do you mean by that, though? What do you mean what do you require?
I require discipline and intention. And I require a level of like investment in terms of time. And you know what, it's like, you can say, oh, I took her to this restaurant, I took her to that restaurant. And I'd be like, well, what's my favorite color? There's no amount of dinners that you will ever buy for me that will get my panties off. So you really need to figure out what it is that you think you have to offer and what it is that you think I value, because it's never going to happen without real investment. I can do it myself. I can pay for whatever restaurant I want to go to myself.
Yeah.
I have a nice car. I have a nice house. I have friends. I have a successful career. So I am emancipated to a certain extent because those things don't entice me. So it kind of is a what do you bring to the table that's not material. That is something that's compelling.
Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you know what I'm about. So let's get into it. All right, so I found this video pretty interesting, and I know at first glance, it seems like I might just be going down that road of, oh, you know, because they have on the thing that she's 40 and all this other kind of crap, and, oh, you know, men bringing stuff to the table. But honestly, I don't see this video in that light. I don't see it in that light at all. In fact, I see something that I think is one of the problems with what we have going on in social media, okay? And that is perspective, okay? It is just simply that word, perspective. Because a perspective is just really about, you know, i.e. the blinders and or the glasses that you have on, okay, that make you see the world a certain way, right? So, for instance, if I tell you that I have just bought a car and it has 4 wheels, okay, and it has a good engine and it has a great warranty, and I see that these cars are very good on, you know, the road, you know, because they have all of this great value. And then I say, you know, in some kind of way, there's a symbol on the front that kind of looks like an H. And your whole life, all you've ever seen and everybody around you drives and or has driven in the past a Honda. So you're like, oh, Jay just bought a Honda. It has an H on it. It's a car. It's, you know, it does well. It has great gas mileage, you know, blah, blah, blah. And you go on. And then you tell me, dude, you just bought a Honda. Congratulations. And I'm like, dude, it's not a Honda. And then you're like, what are you talking about? It's a Honda. And I'm like, no, dude, it's not a Honda. And as I started to explain, you know, what it is, you keep cutting me off, or the other person, whoever this is, this, you know, mythological person, this fantastic person, whatever, is basically keeps pushing the fact that they believe that I'm in a Honda, when in fact I could be in a Hyundai, right? And see, the problem is that a lot of times we assume what the other person is saying or doing based off of our experience, based off of what we have seen, and we're not really listening to the other side, right? And in her argument, as she was going back and forth, what she was really saying was, I'm looking for a man that can give me some kind of emotional, you know, attachment, that sees me at an emotional level. And while I, even through my perspective, might be getting that a little bit incorrect, there was a couple of things she said at the end talking about what is my birthday. So she's basically saying, how deep in me do you see? What else do you see beyond the woman that's on the outside? But as she starts to talk more and more about money and about cars and finances and houses and dinner dates and different things like that, we have to assume, okay, that this is what she's running into. She's running into men that don't really want to see her. They just simply think, oh, okay, well, this is just what I do. This is what I do for the women. But again, we have to look at a woman at her level, the men at her level. And you're not talking about men that are making $150,000. You're talking about men that are making millions of dollars. So for a lot of men at that level, they can literally go out, they see a woman, wherever he finds this woman, he takes her, buys her 2 or 3 dinners, maybe takes her on a trip around the world, and that particular woman at that point, she might be falling in love because she's never experienced that before. But this lady's basically saying, I would have already experienced it. In fact, I could do it for myself. So I don't need a man to give it to me. And it's easy for us to start to beat up on these uber successful women. And I've done enough talking about them in the past, even though I've always said all they have to do is just put, their family first and then they can find their person. But I think here we can learn something different, because I think what she's saying is she's in this forum, and I think even online, people are looking at her and they're saying, oh, well, you're not being grateful. You have all these high expectations and you have this, that, and the third. But really, at least in this part of the argument, it seems more like she's saying, I'm just looking for a guy that remembers my birthday, that remembers our anniversary, that wants to know my favorite color, that wants to know how I feel about all of the successful moves that I've made in my life, that wants to get close to me on an emotional level. And see, that is really where, like I said, the problem is. And one of the things that I've always said is that when you're, because evidently, she's instinct driven. Like I've told you, most of the people are going to be instinct driven. I wish I could find more heart-based people and more thinking-based people to talk about them. But, again, I've told you before, most of the people out here are going to be a little bit more instinct driven unless I find them on TikTok. But when you're dealing with that, okay, most of the men that she's going to run into are going to be instinct driven. So these are not necessarily men with their heart on their sleeve, like the heart type that I talk about all the time. Because really what she is saying is that she wants a heart type guy, or a guy who has a little bit more heart energy, a guy that sees her, that appreciates her, and wants to be with her at that level. And a lot of men, like I've said before, that are heart type, they get looked past. Okay, because they tend to be more attached to their emotions. In fact, a lot of women love, and even men out here, love to call men like that simps. Why? Because they actually express their love. Because they actually are romantic. Because they actually will bring you a gift. And people think that that's less, but it's actually more. That's actually a much better situation. Not to say that, a guy that protects and provides and has, more instinct energy or thinking energy, that those are bad men. But I'm saying for a lot of women, a man that does those things, could absolutely be a wonderful guy, for some of these women. So I want to take a quick look at, some of the comments. Okay, here's a good one. And I think this is, kind of to the point that I'm making. I think this person picked it up as well. A lot of women are not checking for the money. Are you kind? Do you love yourself? Do you have substance? A lot of men in the comments are not listening to her, and it's sad. And see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Here's another one. She did not ask for money. She asked for time and commitment. She asked to be pursued. She asked for men to come with something more than the norm. All of that is fine. Honestly, there's a guy who will. A smart guy will, because he will see her and hear what she requires. if you're after sex, then of course this type of woman will intimidate you. Now, I don't necessarily think it's intimidation. I always hate when people use that word, because intimidation means you're afraid. All right. And fear, in somebody that, just really wants to, use and abuse somebody. Those are two totally different things. So there's a couple of other ones in there that are basically, again, they're trying to lean on her age. They're also trying to lean on the finances, trying to either say that it's sad or bad, or something like that, trying to discredit, what she's saying. But again, I think when we look at an argument, we have to look at that argument for that moment in time. Okay, we can't look at everything from this great big expanse, because then you're going way too far. You have to look at what someone is saying, right in that moment. And in that moment, at least, what I got, from that particular video was that she's crying out for an emotional connection to a man, and for a man to at least put in what she considers effort. And again, I think that that's one of those words that we always have to, to look at, because I've even talked about on this channel that very few men are going to put in 65% of effort. And I think that's why I never like the word pursue, because I think when you're pursuing someone, you're putting in more effort than they are. And while I do believe that men should put in a lot of effort, like I say, in the very beginning, maybe in the first 1 or 2 weeks or so, or maybe even the first month, depending upon the guy, of the relationship, it should quickly move to 50-50. And when I say 50-50 here, I'm not saying exactly, and I'm talking about effort, not money. So I'm saying, hey, maybe the guy does 53%, the woman does 47%. But if the woman is leaning down towards 40 and the guy's getting up towards 60%, a lot of guys that, have a lot going on in their life, they're just going to drop it. So it's really important for a lot of women to put in effort. But again, a lot of women don't need to be doing that as well, where they're putting in 55-60% of the effort, and then the guy's not putting in much at all. And I think, again, that's one of the problems with social media, is that we have a lot of people out here that are very unbalanced in the way that they're saying it. And then, like I say, they're using words that a lot of times could mean multiple things. Because I'm always saying, okay, if you're saying the word pursue, what do you mean by that word pursue? If you're saying putting in effort, what do you mean by that word putting in effort? Give me examples to actually show me what do you mean? Because I think that's, again, when I talk about perspective, I think that's one of the issues with perspective. Because if you're saying, hey, I'm not putting in effort, and then I'm over here thinking I'm putting in 55% of the effort, but because of the men that a particular woman, like I said, might have dated in the past, and those men are putting in 65 to 75% of the effort, and she's thinking now, oh, you're not putting in effort. See, again, you have to define it. Because what someone else's effort is and what my effort is two totally different things. And we have to remember when we're talking to people, we have to understand exactly what do they mean. What do they really mean at the core? Because if you're not talking apples to apples, you're basically just confused about what the person is saying. And they actually could be a really great person for you, but you just don't know exactly, like I said, what they really want. And so therefore, it's hard to give it to them. Anyway, I hope this helped. Remember, on, the first and third Wednesdays, we do have lives. So the next one is coming up the first week of November. So I hope to see all of you there. And until that time, please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.